All right, folks, turning now to Illinois, where a hearing got underway today for defendant Michael McKee. He's the man charged with murdering his ex-wife and her husband in Ohio. Now, McKee was booked over the weekend, alleged to have shot and killed Spencer and Monique Tepe in their Columbus home. Now, the couple's two young children were in the home at the time, but police say they were not harmed.
We want to get you back into court now, for the start of this hearing for Michael McKee.
Third reporter, the defendant is present in custody.
Can you answer for the record? Michael McKee. Have you had a chance to speak with him?
Yes, Your Honor.
What's your position at this time?
Yes. At this time, Your Honor, on behalf of Mr. McKee, I will assert his right to counsel. I will assert his right to remain silent. And Mr. McKee believes that the most expeditious manner in which he may defend himself against the charges pending in Ohio and to plead not guilty would be to waive his right to an extradition hearing and to have a governor's warrant and to agree to his immediate transportation to Ohio.
Understood. Thank you. We will set this matter then for 2 o'clock on Monday for status on the transfer.
Thank you.
Anything else we can do today?
That one.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, let's bring in criminal defense attorney Josh Schiffer. Short but sweet, waiving extradition, from my perspective as a judge, not that big of a deal. I mean, you can fight it, but generally, if they have that evidence as to where it occurred and what they have in that other state, they're going to extradite. Your thoughts on this waiver?
Exactly. It's the smartest and most efficient way to move the process forward. He ain't gonna win anything fighting extradition. May as well get to where you need to go as quickly as possible. That hopefully smooths out his initial appearances at his eventual destination. And let me just tell you, when this case broke last week, we talked about how this is the kind of scariest crime there is because there was no lead. There was nothing. This was the terror in the night. Big sigh of relief that someone who could very likely be the responsible party was identified quickly by law enforcement through the investigation.
Yeah.
This is the kind of crime that is just heart-rending. It's just awful.
Yeah, it's heart-rending, and on some level, you know, you got to wonder what the motivation might have been. Nothing of that sort given out. But he was captured because of good detective work, good investigation work. They connected a car, but also they had surveillance video of someone walking in the area where these crimes were committed. Let's pull that up. It's always chilling to see these things, even by the way this person is walking, who they believe was Michael McKee, might have been involved in this crime in this way. But just one of the things I want to ask you is when I think about a case like this, you think about motive, as I mentioned earlier. This is his ex-wife. And I wonder, is this still the type of case that you can look at as being part of a domestic violence situation? I do not know whether there was any of that type of thing when they were involved in any way. But again, sometimes you leave someone and they look at you over there being happy and creating a family, and that makes them seethe. And again, it's sort of this extension of domestic violence.
It's definitely within that realm of discourse. I was just talking with a senior prosecutor here today about how domestic violence continues to be studied and it affects all parts of our judicial system, not even just criminal, but the civil as well, because the cycles of domestic violence create future problems. If you're a young person and you're exposed to domestic violence in the home, you have a higher likelihood of lots of negative externalities occurring. That goes over to literally family law. It goes to civil cases. It goes to fights in workplaces. Domestic violence and how we handle emotional dysregulation as people, one of the biggest challenges facing us existentially as a nation when we talk about criminal justice.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And this is one of those people, Judge, one of the last people you consider. I believe he was a vascular surgeon or a surgeon.
Right.
And again, anyone who can get to that level clearly is someone that's respected in the community, not someone you'd suspect of something like
Absolutely, and smart and focused to have accomplished that level of education and work. I want to do this, though, because I want to talk about some of the differences between Spencer and Monique, specifically first the way they were killed, and I think we have a full screen that provides a lot of the information factually of the differences, that Spencer had multiple gunshot wounds and Monique had at least one wound to the chest, that there were no obvious signs of forced entry, no firearm was found on the scene, and then again, that surveillance video, as well as detectives linked McKee to a vehicle that arrived just before the murders. These facts, I think, help build that circumstantial case, although the two killings can be used, I think, by the defense, Josh, as two differences between the killings, perhaps meaning two killers.
Yeah, Judge, you've seen this so many times in your practice before you got on television, and that these are the kinds of cases where that perfectly normal person you interact with all the time snaps in a way no one can predict. Now, when it comes to defending it, sure, they're going to put up the idea that there could be other people. There's calls about another harassing interaction with a neighbor down the street in the middle of the night. Heck, I've had my door rattled at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning by someone trying to get $20. So there's always these other alternatives. But when you get down to the linkages we know about already, combine it with this prior relationship, we don't even know how aggressive that process was. There's going to be investigation into the suspect's family life, his personality currently, and I think that it's going to be a strong effort from the state if it all lines up.
Yeah, now this whole thing came to light 10, 11 days ago or so. The gentleman who was killed in this case, the victim, didn't show up for work, causing his boss to call 911 because he's not the kind of guy that wouldn't have shown up for work without calling in. Let's take a quick listen to that 911 call.
Did you receive information that he may have been involved in an accident, or?
No, ma'am. I just know that he is he is always on time, and he would contact us if there was any issues whatsoever. And I just don't know how else to say this. We're very, very concerned because this is very out of character. And we can't get in touch with his wife, which is probably the more concerning thing.
Josh, I want to take you back to that hearing that we saw. We've both been at this a long time. I got a bit of a vibe from it when they pled not guilty, they waived the extradition, and he agrees to an immediate transfer to Ohio. Made me feel like they aggressively want to try this case. Makes me feel like he wants to fight and show his innocence. Did you get that sense in the way this went down, the way this hearing went away?
Absolutely. In fact, it's one of the first things that's come to my head, and it's just like what you talked about. We've done this for so long. If you know you're going to face, let's just face it, a factually strong investigation, the best thing you can do is pressure them to try it too fast. You can force unforced errors. You can make sure the state doesn't have the time and luxury to really go through everything in the way that they would like by filing, speedy trial demands. And it depends on how that works mechanically from state to state. But we call it in Georgia jamming them up because the state doesn't have enough resources to adequately prepare for a high-profile, concentrated, complex case in a short period of time, which in Georgia, you're talking about 1 or 2 terms of court. It can be as short as a couple of months. I see that as being a very valid defense, but telling because the other side of the coin is just you gone, man. You gone.
You don't want that.
Yeah, you don't want that. So just tell us, if you could briefly, Josh, what happens next? We know extradition is waived. They have to get all the different law enforcement people lined up to safely transport him to Ohio. What do we expect next?
Yeah, there's actually an interstate transport system that's been set up to facilitate, because thousands of inmates go around the nation on any given day. It is not a luxurious form of travel. It's the most local bus of all local buses. But once he arrives in the appropriate jurisdiction, everything's going to be set up. He's going to have a first appearance. He's going to be presented with copies of the information that he's required. They're going to immediately handle whether he's going to be appointed a public defender. Even if he's going to get private counsel, a public defender may be available for that initial appearance hearing, where very little comes from the defendant other than a not guilty. And then I expect the people of Ohio to put him on a regular prosecution track. That's where that speedy trial could possibly come up. If he can get in there and force the state to move faster than they want, that may be his best defense.
Yeah, I would agree. And we're still waiting on that charging document to find out some of the details about what they have moving forward against this particular defendant.
That's right. That will tell us a better idea of what the evidence might show.